First of all, I would like to say congratulations to the organizers. This is such a huge and important event. I'm very happy and honored to be here today and meet a lot of wonderful people who have done the work, the researching, and an amazing young people over there who are listening carefully about what's important for tomorrow. When I was invited to this session, I was asking some of my friends from UNICEF, what should I talk about? And they advised me, just tell them stories, your stories. So I think I'll just stick with that. So I chose to tell you how I became a school feeding advocate from the private sector. I'm aware that most of you are academics and professors and researchers. I am not. I'm a practitioner. I came from the private sector. My education is some business, human and social studies, and development studies from University of South Africa. And the story goes like this. I came back from the States, staying for 7 years, and I opened a private school in Bahadar, the northern part of the country, where my parents lived. And I saw a huge need for primary schools, and I had this strong passion for schools. There's nothing that makes you happy to see a child learn every day, change the way they read books and the way they do things. I really have a strong passion for education. So I was just focusing on developing a school system, studying about the minimum level of learning that a child has to accomplish in a certain age, the amount of work students have to do in a certain age, how to play, how to read, and things like that, how to make a human being a lifelong learner. So those are the things I was worried about. So in our school, Bahadar Academy, we have this reporting system that the teachers report every month. If a good performing student starts to decline, they have to find out why. Did he lose a parent? Did she go through some problem with the family? What happened? So they come with reports to me. So one day, there was this report that a third grader, a very bright student who happened to be declining, he came to school with an empty lunchbox. We have never had that kind of report. So this was such a shocking report for me, and I stopped right there. What does it mean? What happened to the kid? How come? Where is the parent? So we investigated the whole story about this child because his mom couldn't support him. He was staying with his uncle. His uncle is a security guard in some organization. He was just trying to help out, but he couldn't. So this smart kid, he knew that nobody was packing lunch for him, but he was pretending, bringing an empty lunchbox to school, trying to look like everybody. So this was a turning point for me to stop and think on just to put myself in his shoe, to put my children on his shoe. What is he supposed to do? So I started to think like education alone, having a good school alone is not enough. We have to look at our community. So I stopped right there. We fixed his problem. We paid for some restaurant to bring him lunch to school every day. He's in university now. This happened 15 years ago. So from that moment, thank you. From that moment, from this experience, my eyes wide open. I started asking questions. I went to every public school in the city to say, how many people are hungry in the school? Do we have children not having lunch? So the shocking truth was most of our children by then were coming to school on an empty stomach. So in fact, I started traveling just for this purpose everywhere, just to see schools, talk to people, talk to the school directors, teachers, parents, including the Ministry of Education, starting to collect information. And the numbers are huge. By then, at a national level, 38% of our students would drop out school before they finish grade 4. So I visited prisons. In prisons, nobody is hungry. We have 3 meals a day in prisons. We don't have anything in our schools. So these are the things that I was just trying to, understand what is going on. So the first attempt that I tried to convince was the regional president and his cabinet. I requested a meeting. I said, I need to talk to you about something. What is it about? Is it about your school? I said, no, it's not about my school is doing well. It's about something that you guys need to do something about. So I prepared this nice presentation. That was my first time standing in front of politicians trying to discuss the issue of food security, which they talk about all the time. But the thing is, they don't see it from children's point of view or the children's position. It's from a different, I think the numbers are different. The way reports are written is different. So I tried to explain, this is a very big issue. You need to pay attention because this is what's happening. So they all accepted the argument. They thanked me for coming forward with this kind of argument. But they said, Frey, what you're saying is such a huge problem, and this is a poor country. We cannot afford to feed everybody. You have to show us how it's done. Okay, that's a challenge I accepted, and I said, okay, I have to prepare to start a new organization called the Ethiopia School Meal Initiative. That's when I started the local non-profit organization. Start studying the problem and how it can be addressed. As you may know, it's a very expensive program. School feeding program is very expensive for governments to implement. I understood that. So thinking about the menu, what kind of food should we give to children? So I started thinking about milk because I grew up drinking milk. Our household had a lot of milk. And when we did the survey, less than 1% of our students in public schools had only once a week a cup of milk. That's very low. So most of them don't even know the taste of milk. So when we started studying the amount of milk produced in a community, it was not enough. Even if we were able to pay for it, there was no milk being produced. So we had to take the cows to school. So this was an action research that we did. We tried to say, our school premises, I don't know if you visited some of our schools. The public schools are usually, they have large number of students, they have huge land, no food, nothing, no kitchen. It's not a part of the school infrastructure. So even for us, adults, to be here without tea break, I don't know, many people will be tired, but students just go on for all day without eating anything. That's very difficult. So we started lobbying and lobbying and lobbying. I went out to the media, speak about it almost every other week. I come up with a big issue trying to convince everybody who's a decision maker, parliamentarians, politicians, whoever is willing to listen what I have to say. I was just talking about it the whole time. So we developed a model saying from barn to classroom, it has to be close by. We started developing a concept called food distance. Food should be produced close to the consumers. It should not be far away. When it's far away, 3 things are compromised. Accessibility. When food is produced far away, it will not be accessible. It will be far away. It will not be affordable. So affordability is affected by food distance. Where do you produce your food? Where are your children? If your children are here in Addis, we should produce it nearby so it will be affordable. The third point was quality. It will not be quality if it's coming from far away, especially milk. So our schools don't have fridge, they don't have electricity. So we just take the cows to school. We experimented this. So in cooperation with the Swedish Embassy and International Development Agency of Sweden, they believed in this vision, even though my proposal was not perfect at all. Mrs. Annika Knudsen, a wonderful lady, who was a daughter of the person who established Fafa company in Ethiopia during the King Haile Selassie, was by chance the head of cooperation in SIDA. When I talk about milk in Sweden, she was almost in tears. She said, my dad started this program a long time ago when I was 5. So Freya, I will help you, but your proposal is not good. So let me help you with this. You know, we were talking about this yesterday. When you have a good relationship with your partners, your donors, if they trust you, if they believe in your vision, if they know that you know what you're talking about, they know what you're talking about, they will help you. They understand you. I'm talking this to the youth. So that worked out. So they gave us a donation for 25 schools to take 10 cows in one school. That will be enough, more than 500 students every day to have a cup of milk and bread in every school. But our goal was to convince our government so that school feeding will be universal. That's our eyes set on that, because how many projects do we have to do to relieve the problem, because the problem is so huge? And how many people have to be affected in your society to say this is a public problem? 10%, 15%, 20% of your population, 30%, 50%? By that time, our food insecurity was almost like maybe 52% at national level. It was huge. So it is a public problem. It deserves to get government attention. It deserves to be a policy issue. So that was our cause. So to make the long story short, we started advocating during when Malala Zenawi was the prime minister. That's 3 prime ministers, 6 presidents. By the time we are on the 3rd prime minister, it was already national universal school feeding program. Addis Ababa started a school feeding program supported by the Ethiopian government for the first time. That was our huge, huge achievement. So since then, thank you. 700,000 students get 2 meals a day. 10,000 mothers got employment through this program. Our students who receive milk and meal, they don't drop out of school, they finish school, they're healthier, they're alert, they love being in school, their brain starts to work properly. So one of the arguments when we started advocating for school feeding programs, the nutritionists used to come and challenge, the damage is done before they were born, 1,000 days. I had no idea about 1,000 days. For the first time I heard it from a gentleman who's not, who's in heaven now, who was a nutritionist. He told me, Frey, what you're doing is great, but the damage is done before they are even born. I was like, when did you know this? I asked him. He said, this is my profession. I had known it all along. So why are you guys so quiet about it? Why didn't you tell us? So he said, well, the politicians don't listen because it's hard, because we just, write papers all the time. So, after that day, I said, no, this needs a declaration. So I wrote a concept note in 2015 that the Ethiopian government has to declare that child malnutrition has to end by the year 2030. That's called Sakota Declaration. Was written by me, but most people may not know it's a global declaration right now, globally acknowledged. So that's the second achievement. So there are a lot of knowledges. Every time, I'm not usually attending these kind of meetings unless I'm invited to. So, but I read reports. I try to translate numbers to human life. That's what I say to the nutritionist. You tell us 40% of your people are stunted. I didn't know what stunted meant. I didn't know that. But after they told me, I translated that into human life, what it does to human beings. So once they are born, they have to get good training. But to be trained, their brain has to work. They have to retain knowledge. They have to remember what they're taught in school. So this is like the foundation is 1,000 days. So finishing the building, the house is this, the adolescent education. So many people were saying, it's just, even if you have school feeding, it just keeps them in school, but it's not going to do anything for their brain. It's not going to. But now new reports are coming out. Like yesterday, we were in a meeting. I was so happy. It's like great news for me. So there's a last chance. We can try again. But now the Ethiopian government school feeding is at the center of the plan of Ethiopian government, because we are watchdogs. We're there to protect that program. So even prime ministers change, ministers change, people change, but this program will grow. It will continue to be covering all children. So the issue of development is about developing people, you know, developing humans. Humans develop their country. So this is also a continental and a global issue. I was in the United States for a short period of time, about 7 years. I know school meal programs are provided in schools, 3 meals a day, and they take snacks home when they go home. So in 2008, I don't know if you recall, there was a huge global recession going on during when President Obama became a president. I was there in California, and they were threatening that we will cut the budget of the school feeding program. It's so expensive because of the recession, we can't deal with it. So people like me, strong advocates, came out and challenged the Senate, saying if you cut the school feeding programs, 30% of United States children will be out of school. That was a shocking finding for me to hear that. It was sometimes, of course, activists like me, I'm a social activist, I call myself as well, exaggerate things to make things happen so that the politicians will not decide if you don't say that. So, but I heard that. So since then, I have been thinking and wishing for the youth. I was telling him earlier during the tea break, we need social activists. We have in our country, I don't know, in your country, in our country we have a lot of political activists, but not social activists who understand what that means for the future generation, who are willing to speak about it, to dig about it, to read about it. So we are planning to work together with UNICEF, training young people to become social activists for cause like this. So this is also a philosophical standpoint that if my neighbor is not okay, I'm not okay. You know, our lives coexist. If Ethiopia is not okay, Kenya will not be okay. If Sudan is not okay, Addis will not be okay. If US is not okay, the global community will not be okay. That's my stand. That's why I do this work. Thank you very much.